CISO Choice Awards Vendor Recognition with Richard Stiennon.
I am speaking with a CISO's Connect award winner, next DLP, and Chris Denbigh-White. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you. Great to be here, Richard.
Chris, give us a quick overview of next DLP because we all use some sort of DLP products. Why do we need the next one?
Absolutely. That's a great question. So what our company did is we looked at the market of information security, insider risk, and kind of data loss, and asked ourselves the question, why is it that when everybody mentions DLP project, the CISOs like myself sigh, wring our handkerchiefs, and our stress level spikes through the roof? And the answer to that is because it was so difficult. So our clever people decided, well, let's try and build something that isn't so difficult. And essentially that's what they did. And that's what we as a company produce.
Awesome. So the history of the company, how old is it? Where did it come from?
That is another interesting question. So we are about 4 or 5 years old. We came from a small group of technical cybersecurity people who, like I say, wanted to build something that's good. And we took the initial standpoint of visibility. There's the old saying is, understand normal to identify the abnormal more. And that's the approach that we've taken, is that actually, in order to protect data, we need to understand how it's being handled and where it is. So we built this visibility platform based on a lightweight kernel level agent on Windows, Linux, and Mac. And from there, we kind of iterated and built on further visibility into browsers and controls of being able to not only see what's happening with your data, but then kind of being able to control, guide users. So over those past few years, this is what we've built, kind of taking in kind of use cases and data challenges as we've found them.
Wow, so it's pretty fast growth because back in the day when I was covering DLP for Gartner, there was endpoint and there was network, and it sounds like you've got a strong endpoint component of it, but with the browser activity and the rest of the data flows, you're soup to nuts.
Absolutely. And when you speak about the differential between kind of network and endpoints, DLP and insider risk solutions, we've kind of addressed both with using the endpoint, because unlike a lot of things, our DLP agents, it's these things like network connections and process starts, as well as just file accesses, because data loss doesn't happen in a vacuum. A user or a program or whatever it be will access a file, package it up, and it will go somewhere else, either maliciously or accidentally or a breach of process-wise. So understanding that context is really key. So we give that level of visibility for companies to actually understand not only what has happened or what have we prevented from happening, but be able to garner those important lessons learned to stop those kind of things happening in the future, or to understand business side messaging that might need to happen within a company. Identifying an unknown business process. I think, every CISO has had that conversation with oh, so these guys are sending information in that way, are they? And when challenged, the company says, oh yeah, absolutely, that's how we've always done it. And it's like, oh, well, that's not in our risk register yet. So it enables conversations like that to happen and almost breed collaboration between security and the wider business, because security are able to understand more and be able to kind of put guardrails and safety around those things.
Now, how did you overcome the problem that they led CISOs to wring their hands when they're talking about DLP? Just the burden on the endpoint to do, back in the day, it was, hey, there are credit cards all over your network on people's desktops. And the searching and categorization, I remember I was doing due diligence on one, and it crunched for 9 hours on my laptop. Now, mind you, it found 64,000 credit card numbers, but still, it was just so painful. How did you overcome that?
Absolutely. My first response is the question: did it find that many credit card numbers, or did it find that many things that potentially could be credit card numbers?
No, I had downloaded a data dump from one of the hackers. I got
fair enough.
rid of that quickly after that.
No, but you're absolutely right, because the DLP project, it used to be that the first step, data loss prevention project as a CISO, it will be, okay, so we need to classify and label all this data. So you'd either do that on the endpoint, like you're saying, or you'd spin up these really beefy servers that would crunch through over a period of months, and provide you with a very large CSV file that said something along the lines of 564,228 files might contain some sensitive data, which for me as a CISO is kind of useless because what do I have to now read all these 562 to determine are they true positives, false positives, and then what am I supposed to do? So we've taken an entirely different approach. We do real-time content inspection at the point of risk, at the point of access, and the point of use of data. So rather than going, it's the old question, if a tree falls in a forest and there's nobody there, does it make a sound? In the same way, when we're talking about data loss prevention, and to be clear, that's data leaving an area that it should be, whether that be an internal boundary or an external boundary. So we're not talking about records management or those kind of things where labeling and data discovery exercises are absolutely valid. But if what you're looking to do is prevent losing data, then as it's accessed and moved is when you want to make those choices and decisions. So our kernel level agent at the endpoint, when somebody opens a file, accesses a file, writes to a file or whatever, it will at that point inspect that file to say, okay, so is there PII in here? Is there a specific type of data? And all kinds of data, you can configure this as well for easy. And then at that point, the agent can alert, control, even educate the end user. So a really good use case for this is one of the time. Everybody's losing their mind over LLMs and AI, and half of the information security think it's Terminator Judgment Day and the world's going to end, and the other half are like, wow, how many headcount can I cut if I replace them with an LLM? So for me, the real risk here is, for content creation for marketing, fantastic if the data you're sending to a third-party LLM is not super sensitive. However, if I'm a CFO and I've got a quarterly report that I'm not too happy of, and I basically upload that to a third-party LLM and say, hey, LLM, how do I sugarcoat this so I keep my job? That would represent a data leak. So in that situation, what we did is we kind of developed a policy where people posting to things like ChatGPT, Bard, and things like this, at the point of risk, those prompts are content inspected, and we can implement then controls and guidance at the point of risk. So it enables CISOs to not go, you are 100% barred from using LLMs, or on the flip side, let's just accept that risk, which is a horrible refrain of a lot of people in my profession.
I love that because you are taking, there are a bunch of startups came out of the woodwork just in the last 12 months, all doing just that for the use case of LLMs. And here you are going, well, nah, that's just a feature. So kudos to you. Yeah,
absolutely. And it's a feature among a lot of things because the blocking is one thing, but I think a lot of times, I think CISOs officers, and I myself historically have been guilty of this sometimes, have been the department that likes to say no, because it's easier to block something than to facilitate business in a safe way. Just to blanket say no and put up the walls has been, all too long has been the thing to do. But if you're able to implement guardrails and where users are sailing close to the wind or risk is being elevated, you can give a prompt to be like, hey, look, it looks like you're trying to do this. Did you know this isn't the correct way to, for example, share data with our audit team? We have a secure data room. Let's divert you onto that path. And that envelops like a two-way communication between security and the wider business as well.
Yeah. And you solve the massive problem of the existing data by looking at that data in use, data movement, and applying policies at that point. And then I assume the customer has a kind of a dashboard for setting policy and getting alerts.
Absolutely. And we've decided to kind of drive that in a very sensible way because the last thing a security engineer wants to do, or a CISO or a team leader wants to do, is be an expert in regex in order to get any value, or indeed writing things like YAML files or JSON and things like this. So it's all menu driven, down to, okay, so who do I want this policy to basically be applied to? what things do I care about? And you can take these things that you care about from the information that's in the platform already, and then I'll answer to the question, okay, the so what side of things, what do I want to do about this? Do I want to just know about it as the security team? Do I want to stop them doing this? Do I want to educate the user with a custom kind of pop-up on their screen saying, hey, don't do it this way, do it that way, or just a little nudge to say, hey, by the way, we saw you do this, sometimes. And 4 or 5 clicks, and you're able to deploy this globally, 100,000 endpoints, however many endpoints globally. And all this information is fed back, all this telemetry information is fed back into a dashboard, which has a certain degree of machine learning added onto the top as well. So if you've got like a brand new, process or a brand new kind of program that's being used nowhere else in the company, instantly you'll have that bubbled up. So if people are installing some shadow IP or they've decided to install something, then you're going to be aware of it. If there's a spike in network activity, we spoke around kind of the network ability, if all of a sudden 10 gig is going off to somewhere it never used to go off before, these are also things that inside this dashboard you'll be able to see. But also, we realize that, we're very proud of our dashboard. It's intuitive and it's really, really good. But in large corporates, who wants an extra dashboard necessarily? So for those people, we're able to stream all these things into your chosen theme provider, should you want to go that way, and give you the ability to hop back and forth between existing security tooling and the controls that we give, because our aim is to make things as simple as possible, making things as secure as possible for our customers. And we don't want to necessarily be a stumbling block in that process either.
Beautiful. Thanks so much, Chris. I can see why my fellow judges for the CISO Choice Awards picked Next DLP. Congratulations.
Thank you. And it is a real honor to receive the award as well.
Stay tuned for more from CISOs Connect.